And that first real surprise is freedom. The one benefit we talked about is actually the one thing that could potentially be an issue, because with freedom comes unlimited, nearly endless choices of what to do, and that can lead to its own sort of level of paralysis as well that we sometimes don't anticipate. Let me tell you a quick story. So when I first started my semi-retirement gig and I slowed down my work, the one thing that I would struggle with sometimes was what to do for lunch. I know, first world problems, indeed. Yet at the same time, I would decide, okay, well, how about I have taco shop, for instance. So I'd start driving to the taco shop of interest that I wanted to go grab some food at. But then halfway there, I'd think of a reason maybe to go someplace else. I might think, I really should be a little healthier, lose a little weight. Maybe this other place would be better. And I'd convince myself of that. Halfway to the taco shop, I'd change directions, hop on another freeway or another street to go to this other location I had identified, maybe a Mediterranean place. Then halfway there, I'd realize, but that place is really expensive, for instance. I shouldn't be spending that much money. Maybe I should go over here instead. And so one after another, next thing I knew, 40 minutes had gone by and I'm still driving around in different directions trying to figure out where I'm gonna end up for lunch. When I had a job and I had a 30-minute lunch break or an hour lunch break, there was nothing to worry about. I knew exactly what I was gonna do for lunch because there was no luxury of options. I needed to go somewhere close or I needed to have taken my lunch. It was all very straightforward and there wasn't the freedom of endless choices. And so lunch became very straightforward and structured. It had to be. There was no choice around it. And that's kind of one of the things that changes when you get to this stage is you have all this freedom, but with that can come a bit of a paralysis because too many choices can often lead to indecision about which choice you want to follow. And believe it or not, another surprise is structure, and rather the lack of structure and how that can impact you. Because once again, you have nothing to do. You can get up at 7 like you used to get ready for work. You can get up at 1 in the afternoon. And most of the time, it really doesn't matter objectively in the big scheme of things. But it matters to you because there might be things you want to accomplish. But overall, you lack that structure. And you might end up at 3 in the afternoon and wondered, what did you do today? Did you just waste a whole day? And so by not having structure, we end up sometimes squandering more time than we'd like to. And so one of the options oftentimes for us is to create a self-imposed structure, maybe a bedtime, maybe a wake-up time, or an agenda for our day so that we know we need to get up by a certain time, for example, so that we can get a particular thing done or accomplished or go somewhere that we wanted to do, and we don't just lay in bed sleeping just because we're tired and end up not doing anything at all. And what's another surprise? Identity. Our identity takes a big hit in retirement because we no longer identify as that person we spent 30, 40 years identifying as. Whether we're identifying as an attorney, as a plumber, as an electrician, as any profession that you can think of, and in my wife's case, a teacher, in my case, a therapist, we lose that whole sense of identity, and all of a sudden we're just this person. We're just floating through life. Everybody out there has a purpose. Everybody out there is productive. Everybody, and I'm exaggerating when I say everybody, but that's how it starts to feel. Like all these people are hustling and bustling around doing stuff, and I'm just lounging around or sleeping or going to the lake or doing whatever. And it starts to sort of get into your head that maybe I should be doing more. And another surprise is friendships. They can change once we hit this retirement or semi-retired stage, because a lot of our friendships might have had a certain foundation. You might have your bestie at work or somebody at work that you can really relate to because they understand what you're going through day in and day out. And that person kind of becomes a confidant. They become somebody close. once work is not an issue anymore and you don't have the day-to-day grind of things at work to talk about, commiserate on, sometimes those friendships can start to stray a little bit because they don't have the foundation that they once had. So it's important in these years that we reflect on our friendships, the ones we had made, the ones we've lost, and perhaps looking at creating new friendships based around a new common purpose in retirement. Whether that's commiserating about retirement and how wonderful it is, or maybe the downsides of it, or there's other options, clubs, activities, sports, so many other things where we can meet people and create new connections to potentially replace the ones that we've lost. Even though it's a natural transition to lose those, we don't want to be left with nothing. So that becomes a bit of a challenge for us, is to continue to, what's the word for it? And I don't want to use create, but foster, that's the word, foster new friendships and new connections so that we are connected to people, even if we're not able to be connected to the original people. And kind of an offshoot to what we were just talking about is purpose, kind of like the last of these. How do we find and create purpose at this stage of our lives? We had purpose before. We were working to be productive, to bring home a paycheck for the family. We were parents, creating a family, raising children, trying to create the next generation of contributing members of society. Again, we had a purpose, we had a focus, there was something to achieve. Kind of hit this level and the kids are potentially grown. They don't need us in the same way anymore. We're not working or working very much, so we're not productive. We're not, in a sense, contributing to society. So what are we doing? And that then starts to kind of eat at us. Like, I have no purpose. And we don't think about it in those terms. We just find ourselves sitting around, and it's kind of like, just feels kind of empty. Like I said before, people are buzzing around, and you're just kind of sitting there. So it's important that we find ways to create new purpose, just like new friendships, and they kind of go hand in hand. So one thing is hobbies. Again, to mention that one, I know it's repetitious, but revisiting old hobbies, like for me, the piano, you've heard me say I want to go back to tennis. There's, for somebody else, it might be cooking or gardening, or entirely new pursuits that we hadn't done before. For example, there's a ton of clubs people can join with common interests to but to go enjoy a particular new hobby, rock climbing or bicycle riding, or there's dozens of these. You can go on, there's that one website, I forget what it's called, Meetup or something like that, where you can look at all these different things that people are meeting up to do, and you can sign up and join and go. You might hate it, but that's fine. Now you've learned that that's probably not the right one for you, but you might come across one that resonates with you and now gives you purpose. Every Tuesday or Wednesday, you're supposed to meet up with this group of people and play tennis or go for a bike ride, or paint, or whatever it might be. And that way, we're developing new purposes and new activities. We're developing new connections. They all kind of go hand in hand together. And one thing we've noticed is that research points out that lack of purpose and lack of structure are some of the greatest regrets of retirement that people feel right beneath financial stress. So it's important for us to make sure to keep our need for purpose and structure top of mind as we transition into retirement, to avoid those surprises or minimize the impact of those, and maybe they won't be such a surprise if we're planning ahead of time. So that was kind of what I wanted to review today. Take a look at your own situation, either as you're preparing to transition, or if you've already transitioned or in the process of it. How can you go about alleviating or minimizing the impact that these different aspects of retirement can have, so there's not as big of a surprise to you as they have been to me.